hidden power of Changó: secrets, protection, and spiritual transformation. There are moments when the sky does not simply open, it warns. A crack tears through the silence like a divine scream, and all at once the world remembers. There are forces we cannot tame, forces that walk with us, around us, through us, and inside us. This is not a tale of mythology. This is not fiction. This is a remembrance of a force too vast to be contained in words, too old to be measured in time. That force has a name: Changó. Some will tell you he is the Orisha of thunder, that he rules lightning, fire, and the pulse of the drum. Others will say he is a king, crowned and furious, who became divine. But none of these are enough. Not really, because Changó is not simply a deity. He is a summons to power, to justice, to transformation, and to truth, the kind that demands a cost. And if you are watching this now, perhaps you've already heard him, in your dreams, in a drumbeat that stopped your breath, in the sudden flash of lightning on a day you were falling apart. Maybe in the heat you feel when you're silent, when your spirit stirs, when you know you were born for something more. That heat is not anger, that is spiritual pressure. Changó pressing in, asking one question: are you ready? You see, this video is not just a lecture, it's a path, a bridge between ancient fire and modern soul. Over the next minutes, we will not simply speak about Changó, we will speak with him, through memory, ritual, symbol, rhythm, and through you. You will discover where he came from, how he rose, how he survived colonization, and how he still shows up today. Unannounced, uninvited, unafraid. You will understand the mystery behind the red cloth, the power of his double-headed axe, the reason why lightning doesn't just strike, it chooses. You will learn how to approach his spirit with respect, how to offer, how to protect yourself, and how to be claimed. And yes, you may be claimed, because the truth is, Changó is not a god you believe in. He is a force that believes in you, but only if you're willing to rise through the fire. So breathe, settle into your seat, but do not relax too much, because what begins now will not leave you untouched. We begin not with thunder, but with the flame that came before it. The story of a man, a king, who refused to die, and in refusing, became eternal. Now listen, the storm is speaking. The king who became flame. Before there was thunder, there was a man. Before the Orisha walked as gods, they walked as flesh. And before Changó ruled the skies, he ruled the hearts of men. His name was Jacuta. Born into the royal bloodline of ancient Oyo, Jacuta was not a boy destined for peace. He was fire before he had language. His eyes burned with questions even the elders feared. He moved with pride, not arrogance, the kind of pride that comes from remembering things your mother never told you, things your spirit carried across lifetimes. Jacuta did not simply rise to power, he became power, warrior, musician, strategist, king. Some said he ruled with charisma, others said he ruled with fear. But the truth lies deeper, he ruled with presence. Wherever he stood, the air changed. But power without balance is a flame without a container. And as Jacuta's legend grew, so did his shadow. He became known for his unmatched fury, storms that arrived when he was wronged, fire that erupted in moments of betrayal. He did not speak softly, he declared, and when he did, the spirits listened. But the body cannot carry forever what belongs to the sky. Jacuta's death is not recorded like other kings. That's because he did not truly die. The stories say that lightning took him, that in his final moment of earthly breath, he was consumed by fire, and what remained was not ashes, but Orisha. Jacuta became Changó. But this transformation was not a reward. It was an evolution. The world did not need another ruler. It needed a reminder of justice, of rhythm, of spiritual defiance. Changó did not become divine to be worshipped. He became divine to ignite. From then on, he was no longer just a king. He was a spiritual law, a vibration, the living embodiment of unapologetic power aligned with ancestral order. His double-headed axe, the Oshi, is not merely a weapon, it is a symbol of duality. One side for creation, one for destruction, one for power, one for control. To carry the axe is not to fight, it is to be ready. His color, red, is not just passion, it is ancestral blood, war paint, spirit flame, and it walks beside white, the color of clarity, of truth, of the breath of Olodumare. But let's pause. This is not just about a man who rose, or a god who descended. This is about you. Because every spiritual lineage that tells the story of Changó also tells you. His fire lives in people. It is chosen, passed down, claimed, and sometimes awakened in those who were never told they belonged to him, but who feel the thunder inside them just the same. So ask yourself now, has your soul always reacted to storms? Do you feel heat when injustice rises? Does your blood pulse when you hear the drum? That is not emotion, that is memory. You might carry his spark, and it doesn't matter if no one told you. The spirits don't need permission from the physical world to recognize their own. Across the diaspora, in Cuba, Brazil, Haiti, Trinidad, the flame of Changó survived colonization by shape-shifting. His followers hid him beneath Catholic saints, gave him the face of Santa Barbara, the red-robed warrior. But the disguise was never for him. It was for survival. And through it all, slavery, exile, silence, his fire never went out. He danced in ceremonies held in basements. He roared in hidden drumming rituals. He whispered to children whose dreams couldn't be explained. And when the time was right, he rose again, not from temples, from people. This is his true power, not eternal life, but eternal awakening. Changó is not the past. He is the one who reminds you that you are not your fear. That fire, when tamed, becomes purpose. That justice, when lived, becomes protection. And when you forget who you are, he drums louder. But this is just the surface. If you've heard the thunder, you must also understand how it survived. Across oceans, across generations, across centuries of erasure. Because the next part of Changó's journey isn't royal, it's revolutionary. And that story begins with chains, with saints, and with spirits that refuse to be buried. How Changó survived slavery and syncretism. There are forces that disappear when they are erased from books. And then, there are forces that survive in whispers, in blood, in the tremble of a drum. Forces like Changó. When the ships came, tearing apart villages, families, and sacred lands, the Orishas came too. Not in chains, not in fear, but in silence. Hidden in the songs, coded in names, embedded in bones. Slavery was meant to strip the soul, to erase gods, to kill memory. But they miscalculated one thing. Fire cannot be drowned. Changó crossed the Atlantic in the spirits of those who called his name behind closed lips, who carried his stories beneath scars. The colonizers didn't see him, not at first. But he was there, in the sudden heat that filled a room when injustice crossed a line, in the eyes of a mother who refused to break, in the boy who beat his hands against wood just to feel rhythm when nothing else made sense. But survival required strategy. So the African gods, like Changó, took on new faces. In Catholic territories, they wore the masks of saints, a sacred act of camouflage, not deception. Changó was veiled beneath Santa Barbara, the warrior saint who also wielded fire and stood in red. At first glance, a Spanish icon, but behind the veil, a Yoruba king, storm-born and eternal. This wasn't imitation. This was resistance through transformation. In Cuba, the tradition of Santeria emerged, not as a diluted version of Yoruba religion, but as a coded continuation. The Orishas lived on through altars that held both saints and spirits, through prayers that looked Catholic but carried African roots, through rituals that echoed drumming patterns passed down through generations, even when drums were banned. In Brazil, he emerged in candomblé, fierce, upright, known as Changó. His followers danced with authority, with fire in their feet. They wore red and white not for beauty, but to align themselves with spiritual voltage. Each step was a declaration: we are still here. He is still here. In Trinidad and elsewhere in the Caribbean, Changó lived on through the Orisha worship movement, evolving but never diluted. The spirit world adjusted, the language changed, but the energy, the presence, remained intact. You see, spiritual survival doesn't always look heroic. Sometimes it looks like blending in. Sometimes it looks like a grandmother lighting a candle to a saint while humming a rhythm from her homeland. Sometimes it looks like dancing when your body is tired but your soul is called. But this wasn't just cultural, it was spiritual warfare. Because when an enslaved person lit a candle to Santa Barbara, they weren't praying to a European saint. They were invoking Changó, asking him to burn the lies around them, to strike injustice where it grew, to remind them that they were more than property. And he responded. There are stories of slave revolts that began with dreams, stories of lightning that struck the quarters of cruel overseers, of children who began to speak in tongues, channeling spirits no one dared name. These are not folk tales. These are memories, encoded in ritual, in chant, in blood. Syncretism, the blending of African and Catholic symbols, wasn't just a creative adaptation. It was a survival spell, one that worked. And now, centuries later, Changó has emerged once more. The masks are falling, the names are returning. Across diasporic communities from Havana to Salvador, from New Orleans to Lagos, the fire is rising again. The spirits no longer whisper, they call. But to truly honor Changó today, you must understand this. He is not a museum piece. He is not folklore. He is a spirit who endured the worst humanity could inflict and never stopped dancing. So when you light a candle to him, when you wear his colors, when you call his name, you are not performing. You are participating in an ancient act of survival, of resistance, of remembrance. Changó lived through those who refused to forget. And now, he lives through you. But don't mistake survival for safety. The thunder doesn't just protect, it tests, it reveals, and it awakens the fire that's been waiting, hidden beneath your skin. Are you ready to know what that fire really is? Because now we move beyond history, into energy, into power, into the sacred mechanics of the storm itself. The power behind the thunder. You've heard the thunder, you've seen the lightning, you've felt the weight of Changó's legacy. But now we go deeper, into the current that runs beneath it all. Because power is not just noise. True spiritual power is coded, layered, alive. It does not announce itself with spectacle. It moves through symbol, rhythm, and resonance. So what gives Changó his force? Not just the stories, not just his mythology, but the spiritual mechanics that define his presence. Changó is fire, but not chaos. He is thunder, but not destruction. His energy is focused force, held within sacred law. He embodies the moment before a storm breaks, the silence right before you speak the truth that changes everything. In the cosmology of the Orishas, each deity governs specific aspects of nature and human experience. Changó rules lightning, fire, drumming, dancing, justice, and leadership. But these aren't just poetic associations, they are frequencies. When lightning strikes, it splits the air, but it also clears the atmosphere. It breaks stagnation. In spiritual terms, it breaks lies. When you invoke Changó, you are not asking for destruction. You are asking for a clean cut, for the false to fall, for the truth to rise. This is why Changó is feared by those who hide behind illusion. His presence exposes. His fire burns through spiritual clutter. He does not whisper, he declares. And if you are not aligned, you will feel the tension. But if you are, you will feel unstoppable. One of the sacred tools used to read Changó's guidance is the dilagun, the cowrie shell divination system. When the shells fall into patterns like Obara or Egila Sebera, the messages of fire, conflict, power, and spiritual maturity are revealed. These aren't fortune-telling symbols. They're keys to understanding what the soul needs, what Changó is revealing, what must shift. In ritual, his energy is accessed through drumming, but not any rhythm. The Ilubata drums carry sacred sequences passed down through generations. These rhythms are calls, passwords in sound. When played correctly, they don't just honor Changó, they summon him. His presence enters through vibration. That's the truth most overlook. Changó is vibration before he is form. So if you want to connect to his power, you must tune yourself to his rhythm. This includes how you move, how you speak, how you carry yourself. Slouched posture, weak voice, uncertain action, these repel his energy. But when you rise, when you speak with clarity, when you move with purpose, he recognizes you. You're speaking his language. And then, there are the symbols. The red and white are not just beautiful colors. They are spiritual currents. Red aligns with ash, spiritual authority, the ability to manifest. White aligns with coolness, clarity, and connection to divine order. Worn together, they create harmony between fire and reason, force and grace. His Oshi, the double-headed axe, represents more than weaponry. It's a sacred geometry. 2 blades, 2 directions, one to destroy, one to build, one to sever what no longer serves, one to shape what must become. It is the spiritual sword of discernment. Those who wield it cannot lie to themselves for long. Even his favorite foods and offerings, like amala, yam dish, carry meaning. Yam, a root vegetable, symbolizes grounding, nourishment, connection to the earth. Offering it is not just tradition. It is aligning your desire for power with humility and gratitude. It says, "Let me be strong and rooted." When you understand this, you realize that invoking Changó isn't about summoning a powerful being to fix your life. It's about aligning with a force of divine order that demands you become who you were meant to be. And this is why you must approach with respect, not fear but readiness. You do not ask for his blessing and continue living small. You do not invoke his fire and expect comfort. You invoke him to change, and change will come. So now the question isn't whether Changó is powerful. The question is, are you aligned with what his power requires? Because the thunder doesn't just strike, it chooses. And if you've been feeling the signs, the dreams, the symbols, the fire stirring in your chest, it may not be random. It may be that he's already walking near you. But how do you know? What does it mean when Changó begins to call you? And what happens when you say yes? Let's go there now. When Changó chooses you. Not all flames are chosen. Some are inherited, some are awakened, and some are called. To walk with Changó is not simply to study him, to wear red, or to beat the drum. It is to be chosen by the fire. And when Changó chooses you, it does not always feel like glory. Sometimes it begins with a breakdown. You might feel everything you once knew start to unravel. Friendships shift, relationships crack. Your career, your comfort, your identity, all begin to shake. And beneath the rubble of what once made sense, you feel a pressure building. Not anxiety, not madness, movement. This is how Changó enters. Not quietly, but undeniably. He calls the soul that's ready to rise, even if the person isn't. And when he chooses you, he will test you. Not because he wants to watch you suffer, but because fire cannot be held by hands that tremble in fear. You must become capable of holding what he gives. So what are the signs? It starts with dreams, recurring images of lightning, of burning skies, of red cloth or crowned figures staring through smoke. You might wake up sweating, heart pounding, unsure if what you saw was a dream or a memory. The number 6 begins to appear. The colors red and white haunt your day. Drums seem to echo in places where no music is playing. Your temper may rise, not because you're unstable, but because your spirit is surfacing, no longer willing to be silent. Your body begins to carry energy that others notice. They may say you feel intense or fiery. You feel different, not better, just more awake. Your life becomes a ritual. Every challenge is a test. Every betrayal is a mirror. Every injustice you witness starts to demand a response from you. You can't sit still. You can't pretend not to feel. This is Changó's voice inside you, shaking the cage that kept you quiet. This calling isn't just spiritual, it's cellular. It lives in your blood, in your back, in your posture, in your refusal to submit to anything that dishonors your essence. It doesn't matter if you were born in the tradition or found it later. Changó doesn't care about paperwork. He recognizes his flame, and if it's in you, he will come for it. But being chosen doesn't mean being elevated. It means being prepared. He will strip what you don't need. He will burn the false parts of you. He will make you confront everything you've avoided, your cowardice, your dishonesty, your addiction to being liked, because he's not calling you to be impressive. He's calling you to be true. And truth is not always convenient. Some walk away when they feel his call. They say it's too loud, too intense, too much, and that's fine. The thunder waits for no one. But those who answer, those who step forward, trembling but willing, will find something no ordinary path can offer. Spiritual kingship. Not the crown of ego, the crown of alignment, of walking with such fierce integrity that spirits move out of your way, of becoming a channel through which fire speaks, not to destroy, but to liberate. And once you are claimed, you are never alone. You'll feel him at your back in moments of confrontation. You'll hear him in the drumbeat of your own heart when fear rises. You'll speak, and your voice will carry a weight you didn't train for, because it's not yours alone anymore. It is shared. But don't misunderstand. Being chosen doesn't mean you're better than others. It means your responsibility has multiplied. The fire in you is not for decoration. It is for action, for service, for change. And that means you need tools, sacred protocols, anchors to help you handle what is now flowing through you. So the next chapter is not about myth or mystery. It's about ritual, about how to walk with Changó safely, respectfully, powerfully. Because the storm chose you, now you must choose how to carry it, how to invoke with honor. Fire is sacred and dangerous, not because it seeks to harm, but because it obeys no one who approaches it with ignorance. And Changó, being the master of fire and thunder, demands the same respect. If you desire his presence, his protection, his power, you must first learn his protocol. Ritual is not superstition, it is structure. It is the container through which spirit safely moves into the world. Without it, power turns chaotic. With it, fire becomes transformation. To invoke Changó is to invite energy that is alive, not symbolic, real, heavy, shifting. He arrives with heat, with rhythm, with demand, and you must be ready. Begin not with tools, but with posture. Your body is the first altar. If your spine is bent with shame, if your voice trembles with fear, if your spirit is not ready to stand in truth, wait, purify first. Center your breath, speak your name aloud, call your ancestors, call your clarity, because the fire will not come to a vessel still afraid of its own light. Now, prepare the space. No clutter, no distractions, just intention. A white cloth, a red cloth, laid as foundation, red for fire, white for balance. Place a red candle at the center, not to light a room, but to open a gate. Fire speaks, it remembers, and it draws spirit closer when offered with sincerity. Offerings are not bribes, they are recognition. Changó responds to certain gifts, not because he needs them, but because they activate energy. His favorite food, amala, a yam-based dish, connects him to the earth through root and spice. Place it with humility, speak over it. Tell him what the offering represents: strength, grounding, service. Drumming is a sacred key. If you are not trained, do not imitate. Instead, clap, beat your chest, chant his name, or play recordings of traditional Ilu Bata rhythms, not as background noise but as spiritual invitation. These rhythms are not music, they are spirit language. Played correctly, they carry code. Each beat is a syllable in the tongue of the divine. Now speak to him, directly, not begging, not demanding, but invoking. Say his name, Changó, Jakuta, Obakoso. The king did not hang. Call him as a sovereign would call a force equal in might, not a servant, not a god for hire, but a spirit you are choosing to honor and learn from. Your words should be clear, no flourishes, No false humility. Ask what you must know. Declare your intention. And most of all, listen. Changó often responds not in the moment, but in what follows. In dreams, in symbols, in disruptions. He tests. He teaches through the aftershocks. Respect his symbols. His oshi, the double-headed axe, may appear to you in visions, dreams, or even artwork. When it does, take notice. He is reminding you of your edge. One blade to cut what binds you, one to shape your path. If you acquire or craft an oshi, treat it as sacred. Do not display it for vanity. Use it as a point of meditation and protection. And always remember, ritual is not performance. Do not post it. Do not record it. Do not turn it into a brand. Ritual is intimacy with the divine, and Changó will turn away from those who commodify what is meant to be consecrated. If you are not initiated into a lineage, you can still build a respectful connection, but tread carefully. Research. Ask elders. Sit in humility. The path of Changó is not about being loud. It is about being aligned. There are days dedicated to him, often Thursday in many traditions. On these days, light your candles. Offer your prayers. Do not ask for power. Ask for readiness. Ask for fire that clears, not fire that consumes. You can also write him letters. Burn them. Let the smoke carry your words. He listens to fire. He walks with smoke. He dances in flame. But only if your words come from truth, not ego. And when you are done, close the space. Blow out the candle with intention. Offer thanks. Say, Obakoso, the king did not hang. He rose. And so will I. Because this is not just ritual. It is remembrance. You are not lighting candles to a myth. You are stepping into a lineage that has danced through chains, prayed through silence, and burned through every attempt to erase it. Now that you've called him, you must be ready for what comes next, because fire doesn't arrive for comfort. It arrives for transformation, the path of transformation. The moment you light the candle, the ritual begins, but not just in the room around you. It begins in your life. Because when you walk with Changó, you are not simply practicing spirituality, you are inviting transformation. This path is not soft. It is not adorned with affirmations and instant peace. It is wild, cleansing, dismantling, and deeply healing. But first it must burn. Changó does not transform you with tenderness. He transforms by revealing. And what he reveals first is everything false. All the masks, all the stories you've used to survive, all the compromises you've made with your power just to be accepted. He lifts them, one by one. And beneath each, a wound, a lie, a memory you've been trying to forget. That's where it starts. Transformation under Changó is not the illusion of strength. It is the death of weakness disguised as comfort. He breaks the patterns you've mistaken for safety. He shows you where you have stayed too small, where your silence has cost you, where your loyalty to people, places, and beliefs has kept you in spiritual poverty. And when it all starts to unravel, you'll think something is wrong. But this is the fire at work. He is purifying you. Initiates often say that after their first real connection with Changó, life begins to fall apart. But it isn't falling apart. It's falling into place. Your old identity begins to die. Not by force, but by exposure. The heat becomes too much for lies to survive. You start speaking truth you once hid, setting boundaries you once feared, leaving environments that no longer match your vibration. You stop asking for permission to be powerful, and instead, you begin to stand. This is the real initiation, not a ceremony, a shift, not a title, a test, not robes and crowns, but sweat and ash and a voice that no longer trembles. Because to walk with Changó is to become sovereign. But sovereignty is not dominance. It is alignment. You become a vessel that moves with spiritual confidence, not ego. Your presence commands space not because you force it, but because your spirit no longer hides. And people will notice. They will say you've changed, that you're intense, that you don't bend like before. Good, You weren't born to bend. You were born to stand at the center of your own storm and speak power with clarity. That's what Changó calls forth. This transformation is not instant. It is layered. Some days you'll feel like fire, other days like ash. Some days the thunder in your chest will guide your every word. Other days you'll wonder where it went. But even in silence, he is there. Because once you are claimed, you are never alone. You'll hear him in the rhythm of your walk, in the unexpected clarity of your decisions, in the way your hands move when you speak truth. His fire lives in your spine, reminding you to rise again and again. But understand this, transformation is not the end. It is the beginning of purpose. Changó does not give fire for decoration, he gives it for action. And what you do with your awakening determines what comes next. So ask yourself, will you use this fire to serve? To speak when others go quiet? To stand when the world demands you kneel? Will you walk with integrity even when it costs you approval? Because the crown he offers is not heavy, unless you're still trying to wear it over fear. The next chapter will show you what this transformation looks like in real lives, in stories, in myth and memory, how this power walks in the world, sometimes through miracles, sometimes through fire. Because knowing is not enough, you must now see. Real stories of Changó's wrath and mercy. Every Orisha has stories, but the stories of Changó are not just tales. They are warnings, revelations, and prophecies. They're not designed to entertain. They are designed to transform. Because the fire does not only purify, sometimes it punishes, and sometimes it protects. Let me tell you a story passed down through the old lineages. There was once a man, proud, wealthy, feared in his town. He mocked the spirits, laughed at the drums, ridiculed those who bowed at altars. He called Changó myth. Fire to him was only physical, until the day he laid hands on a woman devoted to Changó, a priestess who had served faithfully for decades. She never fought him. She didn't scream. She simply whispered his name into a red candle that night. And within hours, a lightning bolt struck his prized house, shattering the roof and leaving a mark across the wall shaped unmistakably like a double-headed axe. The man survived, but he never raised his voice again. He began wearing white. He cleaned the roads with his own hands, and when asked why, he would only say, "The king visited me." This is not fiction. It is testimony, told and retold not to frighten, but to remind. You cannot call upon Changó and walk in dishonor. You cannot dishonor his people and escape the balance. But this fire cuts both ways. Another story tells of a young woman, lost in life, drowning in grief after her brother died in a street war. She had no tradition, no ritual, but she had rage. One night, while standing in a storm, she screamed to the sky, "If you are real, show me." Thunder cracked. Power shut down across her block. And in that silence, a neighbor, an elder she'd never spoken to, knocked on her door with a red candle in her hand and said, "He heard you. Come." That night, she began her path. Today, she's a respected priestess. She never touched a weapon again, because the warrior in her was claimed by a greater war, the war for her soul. Changó is not cruel, he is just. And in justice, there is mercy. He does not punish the broken, he lifts them. He does not reject the angry, he redirects their fire. He does not demand perfection, he demands truth. Those who serve him, truly serve him, often carry the heaviest burdens, not because they are being punished, but because they have been given fire to hold. And fire reveals, it tests, it humbles, but it also resurrects. There are countless testimonies of lightning striking during ritual, of court cases shifting after offerings, of voices speaking during trance in languages the practitioner never learned. These are not exaggerations. These are echoes of a presence so real, so alive, that it cannot be captured by books or beliefs alone. Changó does not need you to believe in him. He needs you to meet him. And when you do, when you see him not as legend but as force, you begin to see your life differently. You understand that nothing is random. Every trial has shape. Every loss, a lesson. Every injustice, a mirror asking, Will you rise or will you retreat? Because whether in wrath or in mercy, Changó's purpose is the same, to awaken you, to break the false crown you've worn for approval and offer you the real one, forged in fire, sealed in truth, anchored in ancestral power. Now you know the stories. Now you know the risk. Now you know the reward. But still, one question remains. What will you do with this fire? Because you can't unhear the drum. You can't unsee the signs. You can't unknow the king once he's looked you in the eyes. Now we bring it home. The fire has spoken. But the crown is still in your hands. The crown is yours to carry. By now, the fire is no longer outside of you. It's within. If you've listened closely, not just with your ears but with your soul, you've felt the shift. That inner storm no longer feels like chaos. It feels like truth. And the silence that follows it is not emptiness. It's alignment. Because Changó doesn't come to entertain. He comes to awaken. He comes to crown those willing to walk in their full power, not as tyrants, but as vessels of sacred order. But here's what they don't tell you. The crown is not gold. It is not comfortable. It is not always seen. The real crown is made of your scars, of the truths you chose to speak when your voice shook, of the fire you carried when no one else dared, of the justice you lived when it would have been easier to stay silent. This is the legacy of Changó, not royalty for admiration, but responsibility as a sacred act. He doesn't crown you to elevate your ego. He crowns you to elevate your action, so that when others bend under pressure, you become the one who stands, not to be praised, but because your spine has become the pillar that spirit can stand on. You've walked through the thunder. You've seen the king's rage, his mercy, his rhythm, his memory. Now comes the part no ritual can give you. Decision. Do you carry this forward? Do you let the fire remake you? Do you rise into your own authority, not through control, but through clarity? Because the world does not need more mystics who hide behind robes. It needs warriors who walk into the fire and come out with wisdom. That is the true mark of someone claimed by Changó. Not that they speak louder, but that they speak truer. Not that they dominate others, but that they refuse to let fear dominate their own soul. If this journey has stirred something in you, do not let it fade. Let it ignite something deeper. Build your altar. Begin your prayers. Learn from those who carry the lineage. Find the rhythm that calls your ancestors. Don't rush, but don't retreat either. And when in doubt, remember this. The fire chose you for a reason. And no crown ever fits easily at first, but once it does, you never take it off. So I ask you, before you leave, what did the fire show you today? What did the thunder remind you of? And what part of you is ready to rise? Share your reflections in the comments. Let this be a space of testimony and truth. If you walk with Changó, or feel him walking with you now, speak. The ancestors are listening. And if you want more paths like this, deeper initiations, sacred symbols, the secrets behind Orishas, rituals, and spiritual awakenings, subscribe. This is only one fire among many. The journey is far from over. But the crown, it's already yours. Carry it.